all. Welcome to the episode number 13 of the GenAI CIO Podcast. Siva here, founder of Lizer, an agent framework company, and I'm here. I have here Rishabh, founder of GoML, which is a GenAI consulting organization. And here we are in our 13th episode. We are bringing you the GenAI news in context with enterprise and business adoption of generative AI. So not the other chit chats. So we'll try and keep our news in line with what how businesses could adopt Gen AI. What are the new releases and technologies that matters in the enterprise sector, in the enterprise scenario. So that's the whole agenda for this podcast. So we have some interesting updates. Like it's a massive week. I mean, yesterday was like some of them dubbed apparently yesterday as the Super Bowl of AI because we had Gemini release, we have the OpenAI Sora release. So yeah, let's start with that. Actually, it's been a massive week. OpenAI introduces Sora, which is a Gen AI model for video creation. So with a single prompt, now you can create up to 60 seconds of the video. I mean, the model creates a 60-second video, and it is really stunning. It looks like a 4K video quality. Number one, the video quality is stunning, 4K. Number two, it is super real. Like we all used to say, Mid-Journey is really fantastic with human figures. And OpenAI is really stunning again. The quality, not just a photo, at a video level, the quality is stunning. You cannot make out what is real, what is not real. So model can still animate still images, and then it then extends that into videos, and it fills the missing frames from one frame to another frame. If there are any, I mean that's what the diffusion models work anyway. And yeah, so this is like really breathtaking to see what OpenAI brought to the community. They're yet to release it. It is still in like they just released the teaser, and Sam Altman was running to in order to, I think it's a dig at Gemini, in order to not have this just as a PR stunt. He was taking up questions or requests coming in from Twitter folks and launching videos right then and there. So just to show that, hey, you know what, it is not all I mean, we don't want to we are not here trying to just bring down Gemini 1.5's launch stuff. We are actually making some really big, it's a real stuff. It's not just a marketing gimmick. So yeah, that's the news on Sora. Rishabh, what do you think?
So one obviously is Shiva, just on your point, taking requests. I think one request that actually came in, which was very interesting, was from Craig founder, right? And as you rightly mentioned, right after his request came in, Sam Altman through his channel on X actually created that video, and it was around dolphins cycling on a beach, right, wearing goggles, etc., and he actually used that prompt to generate the video. So I think one thing that Sam Altman is saying outright is these are not staged demos, right? It
Yeah, exactly.
might be a direct dig, right, at what obviously Google has done in the past, but I think definitely yes. It's we and I think we are slowly moving to that era where most of these models are now contributing to or moving towards videos. I think Lumiere came in a couple of weeks ago, but Lumiere was able to create videos up to 5 seconds with the so I think you can create up to 60 seconds if I'm not wrong, right? Videos and I've literally seen some of these videos, Shiva. They're coming out very nice. In the launch video that they have, like where you have those sakura leaves behind in Tokyo City walking and so on. It's like very closer to the description, right? So good update, absolutely. Again, see, as I always say, Shiva, these models are very good, right? Till they prove a practical implication. Like we move to a world where obviously these models, image to text, are showing now practical implications. We are also using it in our projects. Till the time these
Yeah,
models don't move there, I think these are more marketing gimmicks, challenging each other, and so on and so forth. So I think we need to slowly start getting into that level.
I agree. 100%. Yes. I mean, we need to see how useful it turns out to be eventually. There are definitely a lot of people continue to comment that, hey, you've just killed a bunch of startups in the space, etc., etc. But I mean, startups will always thrive. Startups are like, we are like cockroaches. We'll always thrive anyway. Uh,
Correct.
Moving on to the second news, the follow-up news. Sam Altman has been all over the news with the fundraise target that he set, which is 7 trillion US dollars to start the AI hardware venture to compete with Nvidia to manufacture these GPUs and the future AI ready chips. And he's looking at partnering with the UAE government, which is a sovereign fund coming in, and then chip manufacturing giant, which is TSMC, which is the world's global chip manufacturer anyway for everyone, including Nvidia. So Nvidia's chips are manufactured by TSMC from in Taiwan. So it's a race that is on, and there is a lot of speculation on, okay, why do these guys really need so much uh, I would say money to build a massive chip thing. We don't even have enough raw materials to produce those many chips. So there are a lot of different theories that were roaming around. One interesting theory was, hey, you know what? What if you have all the money in the world to buy all the raw materials where no one else can produce chips? What happens? You literally win. You became a monopoly, right?
Yeah.
There is one theory that is floating around. And the other theory is after what yesterday's launch was, because whatever Sora was, you need so much compute power to do such amazing things. So probably he's he's kind of not necessarily super untrue or super villainous. There is actually a need for so much compute power, and hence he needs so much money to raise. So yeah, that's the second big news that was making news all over. I mean, imagine every top media channel was covering this, the 7 trillion thing. It is never heard of in this fundraising world anyway. WeWork was a massive one that we all spoke about, but 7 trillion is like crazy. So
It's
yeah, that's
more
the
than the
second update.
combined capital or combined market cap of all the infrastructure companies right now, right, Shiva? And I think that was the joke that was actually floating around. So it's definitely a very bold move, but makes, as you rightly mentioned, right, Shiva, it makes sense because at the end of the day, I think for all these, especially for players like OpenAI, right, where they're working on these massive models, it's a core capability that they need to develop, right? Because these models are as smart as you've trained them, and obviously for training them, you need infrastructure. So it makes sense for him to do this, right, in the long run to have a more stable growth, right?
Yeah,
What would be very interesting, Shiva, to see is that how once probably obviously this goes through, right, and he probably this venture goes through, how how the dependence on massive players like Nvidia and all is actually taken away, right? How do they actually move out of that dependence that they already have on such players? Would be very interesting to
yeah.
see, right? But definitely a
No,
very
I mean,
bold move, but a sensible one.
no, Nvidia is following a slightly different approach. What Nvidia is doing is they're going to every government and saying, hey, you know what? You need to build your own LLM data center, right? You need to build your own sovereign or national LLM powered by Nvidia. So Nvidia is taking that route, like all these guys here to also make money and commercially make this a successful thing. So Nvidia is pitching that, saying, hey, every government in the world should have their own national LLM, while Sam Altman is going the other way around, which is, I'm going to build the AGI, I'm going to make the world a better place. So all of you give money to me, I'll build the AGI for the future. So yeah, two interesting
It's
theories.
clearly stating, Shiva, that I don't want the building blocks to come in and then I will build based on those building blocks. He's clearly saying I'm going to manufacture the building blocks and then I'm going to probably build Burj Khalifa using those building blocks. So definitely, I
The
agree with you.
yeah, this is the fully integrated or the full stack approach that self-sufficient model, whatever you call that, Tesla chose, right?
Exactly.
Tesla will they don't manufacture chips, but they write the software, they assemble, they do everything. They don't outsource anything,
Exactly.
and that leads to a lot of innovation as well.
Because you have a
Ford's
lot of
CIO,
control, right? And just imagine,
correct?
right, the basic requirement for these models to be innovative or to be really useful is the training aspect of it, which is like the core
Yeah,
capability. And for that, you need compute power, right? Till the time you're
I mean
relying
there
on
was a
someone who's outside, obviously you'll have less control over there and more costs, obviously.
yeah. See, this reminds me, there was a podcast where the Ford CIO came on and they asked him, what do you think is the success of Tesla? Or how did Tesla move really fast? And he said something. He said, you know what? Ford has 150 contractors who supply parts. Just for the engine department, ECU and stuff, there are 22 contractors or something like that. So he said, even if you have to make one line of change, we need to rely on all these guys making changes, etc. But in Tesla, everything is integrated, fully integrated. So they all just move so smoothly within the company. They don't have to wait for anyone. They don't have to do any change request. They can take decision really, really fast. So that's what that's what Sam's trying to do now. You know what? I don't want to wait on Nvidia. I don't want to wait on TSMC or others. Sorry, other chip companies. I will manufacture my own chips and I'll do my own stuff. I don't want to wait on Azure anymore. I have sovereign fund. I'll build my data centers. I'll do everything. So it's a good
There's
strategy.
there's a reason why
Yeah.
Tesla was able to bring down their initial 200K off for the cars
Car.
to probably more affordable electrical vehicles, right? So absolutely, again,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, very good update. What would be more interesting is how does he probably reduce the dependency on the current chip manufacturers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So next up, Shiva, after Sam Altman, we've got Google, right? Google has been in news, obviously, for good reasons lately, right? With Gemini coming in, Gemini Ultra released. But before I actually get into Gemini 1.5 release, right? That the the more advanced model that they've actually released. I'm first going to cover what happened with Gemini very briefly, right? The chats getting leaked or appearing in Google and Bing search engine or search pages, right?
Okay.
So, well, obviously, Shiva, it's a one-off security breach, but it's very important for us to understand what exactly happened, right? For our viewers as well. So, I mean, anyone who understands Google indexes today knows that generally Google obviously indexes pages across the web, except for pages that have certain files etc. In their index or home pages, right? Generally, we refer to these as robo.txt files, right?
Mm.
But there is an exception, right, to this rule where even if the robo.txt file is ideally index is not supposed to pick such page content or such pages, right? But if you have a publicly available link in that content still, it will still pick it up, right?
Okay.
And after probably these leaks happen. So exactly what was happening is that people, when they were saving their chats and the content in that chat with Gemini Ultra, that was appearing in the human in Google search and Bing search.
Search. Okay.
Now, obviously, one of the reasons that people thought is that by default they were not adding robo.txt file for this not to be in text. But when this was taken, or probably when they tried to debug this, robo.txt was there, right?
Okay.
But there was also a public link added to it, right? And
Okay.
that's what why one of the reasons this information or the confidential information that users were sharing with Gemini was appearing on the search indexes. Google did acknowledge this, and they've actually asked users in a subsequent announcement not to share confidential data with Gemini, right? Now apparently it seems to be fixed, but slowly these started disappearing even before the fix as well, because again these chats had very less data in it. So indexing, obviously, as it works, right, it was not getting a lot of hits, etc. So slowly these chats stopped appearing or started disappearing. Sorry, right from the pages. So it's a big security breach. Definitely, yes. They seem to have fixed it now, but that's how Shiva again. Ultra came in, so that's how probably Google really needs to start controlling its releases probably as more planned, right? While this could be one off, but this was a big issue, right? Now, moving beyond that, Google has launched Gemini 1.5, right? And obviously the capabilities that Gemini now, it's a multi-model model, right? But I think the biggest and the most important capability that it's now bringing in is that they have tested it out with a 1 million token context window, right? Which is massive, right? The likes of GPT-4 Turbo 128,000, right? Claude 2.1, which is around 200,000, right? Context window. But 1 million context window is definitely massive, right? Now, how they claim to have probably, have done this is that they're following a mixture of experts model. That's something that even Mixtrill follows, right? Which again, I think as we covered in our last podcast, is where you're actually breaking down the problem into multiple phases, and then each of these smaller models actually attack these problems, right? So they claim to have tested it out with 1 million context window. What would be very interesting to see, Shiva, just one my point of view is, while this is a very good update, you're able to process 11 hours worth long of videos right to these to Gemini 1.5. You're able to do 30,000 lines of codes, etc., with this context window. But the biggest problem that we've seen, and this is something that we've seen practically happening with Claude 2.1 as well, the moment you exceed or probably come closer to the cap, right, of these context windows, your accuracy of these models drastically drops, right? And obviously the reason for that is this is because transformer models work through attention mode. How will Gemini 1.5 perform with 1 million tokens, right? Context window would be very interesting to see, Shiva. So good update, but we'll have to see how the accuracy is working around these context windows with Gemini 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, 1 hour of video, 11 hours of audio, code bases of 30,000 lines. That's crazy. Is it available already
It's
for
it's
public to
it's
try?
it's not yet, Shiva. It's not yet. But yeah, I mean, again, they've tested it out across a couple of like Stack benchmarks, etc., and it has definitely performed better than GPT-4. But as I say with Google, try it out. I'm really not concentrating concentrating on anything else. I'm really interested in the context window, because if they're able to solve that problem, right, where if you're able to utilize the complete context window of these models with higher accuracy, I think that's a huge development. Huge development. Like, we just imagine that we'll not have to work on because today, if we look at it, we spend a lot of time in building or the prompt that we're actually doing, the context of those prompts below, right? So we spend a lot of time in processing of these documents, tokenization of these documents, etc. If this works out, I think that's a game changer.
Yeah, primarily RAG. So RAG goes away. So all the way up to 1 million tokens, you don't have to do RAG at all. So that's, but again, at the same point, like I said, the performances has to be, I think with more and more mixture of experts coming up, this might take away the importance of RAG. Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's why I'm really excited about this, and I'm just dying to try it out, Shiva.
sure.
So next, a very good update, Shiva. Uh, Obviously, I think we've spoken about this in the past, right? That slowly or eventually, right? And there's something that Anjay Karpathy had actually mentioned about as well, right? Or probably the model that he had actually envisioned as well, is that slowly these models start controlling the applications, right? The application layer, right? So you probably have, and that's where we slowly move into the agent model, right? Where you have these models actually, some a model actually controlling the application and booking a ticket for me, right? A model controlling the application and handling my emails. A model controlling, or probably an agent actually controlling, set of applications, doing PowerPoints, etc., right? So what has happened is Shanghai AI Lab has actually leveraged this model that Anjay Karpathy had actually visualized, right, to build something called as Friday. Right. The full form of this obviously is fully responsible, intelligent, devoted to assisting you. It's a very long, acronym.
It-
Shiva,
It's
but
like it's like first deciding the name and then coming up with the
uh,
verbatim. Okay.
but
Hmm.
but it landed well for them. Like, Friday is a very relatable name, right? But eventually, what it actually is able to do is it's actually able to navigate through your actual applications live on your Linux and Mac OS operating system,
Yeah.
and probably then control the inputs to those applications the same way that a human ID, like same way, Shiva, you go and open up your computer and probably start leveraging any of these applications, right?
Yeah.
This model of Friday primarily does that for you, right? So this, and again, probably while they're actually testing it out, they've already shown a couple of promising outcomes and demos of this. This just takes us very closer to the agents models that we've been talking and thinking about, right? So very good update. It's in initial phase
But
that they've highlighted, but yeah.
But how is this different from what Killian did with Open Interpreter? I mean, Open Interpreter is the same. Actually, at a command line, go and ask any question. It speaks to GPT-4, or locally it can speak to Llama 2, and it will write a bunch of code and it'll execute on your MacBook, and you're able to do. I mean, he's done it like almost 6, 7 months back, to be honest.
But
And he's now taking on Rabbit as an app. I mean, they're building an open source version of Rabbit, the large action model powered device that we spoke about earlier. So I think it is just a. I mean, there. Just looking at it, it's definitely probably inspired by the open source alternate that is already there, which is Open Interpreter. This is also open source, I believe. Have they made it open source or no?
No, they've not released it. They've just shown it as a concept.
Uh, but no, I think viewers should go and check. You should also try check Open Interpreter. It's fantastic. Shout out to Killian. I mean, what he's done is
But
pretty
my
cool, to be honest.
understanding, Shiva, sorry, Shiva. My understanding is Interpreter still probably interacts with these applications through coding layer, right? It doesn't like go and interact with these applications. Like Rabbit is actually closer, right? The Rabbit was that that they bring
Yeah,
in.
I mean, he, yeah, he's that's what I mean. They at a system level, Open Interpreter does, right? For example, moving files from one folder to another folder, converting files into a different format, or editing, updating some Word documents, Excel sheets. It can do everything at a system level. At a browser level, they were already introducing things. I haven't checked recently if they're doing something at browser level. But what I'm saying is, as a concept, which is LLM as an OS, while the news article says, "Hey, this is similar to what Andre Karpathy is saying," but there is a slight difference. Andre's idea was slightly different, where your model is running locally, right? LLM OS is nothing but your model is powering everything. You just interact, chat, and do everything. Here, there is no in-house model. They're using GPT as a model.
Exactly.
Uh, there is a slight nuance, the difference here. But yeah, I think everything
Agree.
is good. I mean, every improvement is good as long as they make it open source. It'll be fantastic for the community. If they're not making it open source, I would say they're probably just created a copy from Open Interpreter and
But
making
see,
it a
Shiva,
bit better.
one thing that I would like when you're actually accepting or probably trying to reach or access some of these functionalities or applications from backend with code, right? You still have limitations because the applications can still block you, right, from accessing. I think with these models, we are slowly moving to an era where probably these models or these agents can actually mimic human behavior, right? Because you're not actually accessing the application through code or from backend. You're actually going and getting into the application as a human would do, right? So one obviously is getting wrong, but I think security issues will also be probably something that will have that will get resolved. Right? So I
I mean,
still
let's see. I mean,
I still feel, that for us to get into an era where we are actually, where we are absolutely moving into, places where these agents are doing actual tasks for me across applications, it's very important for us to, what probably Friday is doing or what Rabbit is doing to move into that era, Shiva. Like code level access, probably, I think will still have its own limitations.
got it. So let's wait for them to release, and let's take a call how the whole thing turns out to be. But it's a good update, yeah. I mean, this is a good direction actually for all of us to kind of look at.
On a similar
And on
note, while
that,
obviously we're not covering that, Kalpathy has decided to move on from
I know,
OpenAI.
I know. I mean, there are rumors. Where is
No, he
he? I
made
don't
an
know. He might
announcement,
go
right?
back to.
It came in from OpenAI's public handle as well, and he's clearly highlighted there's no drama or anything. He's just decided to move on from his personal
Yeah, I
choices.
know. That is not the drama. The thing is he joining
Exactly.
XAI, where he
That's
came from? He was the head of autopilot division at Tesla. Okay, is he going to join Elon back? Is he joining some of these new startups like Perplexity, or is he probably looking at joining Meta, or probably is he starting his own firm? Most likely, he might be starting his own firm because
yeah,
there are investors would be absolutely open to pour millions of dollars into what he might be wanting to do.
exactly.
So yeah, let's see what he. So next up we have Cohere. Cohere as they have an .org, which is a separate entity, or probably an open source focused model. I mean entity, I think, or just a brand, which is Cohere for AI. So good thing is they launched something called Aya probably, which is an open source large language model which is covering multiple languages. Basically, it can one LLM which can speak in multiple languages, almost 100 plus languages, and apparently it's outperforming many other multilingual models like even GPT-4 for that matter. So this is probably Cohere's massive entry into the open source. They've done few open source stuff, Like we even at Lizer we do a lot of small mini open source stuff. But this is one big open source stuff that they're kind of doing. It's great. It's receiving a lot of appreciation from Meta and everyone else in the open source community. And this will also be very good for folks in India as well, because a lot of Indian languages are supported. Gujarati is already supported by the language, and it's just going to get better from here on. So the open source LLMs are also not slowing down. They're here to kill all the other closed source and frontier LLMs. So pretty good update from Cohere. Really, I know Cohere is a competitor to in some extent to Lizer, but I really respect what they're doing here.
No, absolutely. I think it's the era of the, and as we've highlighted, Shiva, 2024 is going to be the era of open source models. So good update, Shiva. Thanks. I think
What
moving
what next?
on to Nvidia, obviously Nvidia has, as I think Shiva has spoken, is also trying to create, a kind of a diaspora of services that can help their chips consumption as well. Right. So they have another very interesting update this week, which is they've actually launched a tool, a chat with RTX, right? But while probably this is an AI powered tool, you can actually interact, you can do AI conversations like any other tool, right? But the important the important thing or update from India about this is that you can actually run this offline on your your laptops and computers, right? Still leveraging chat gpt at the back end, right? Which obviously today chat gpt based any conversation you require internet connection, active internet connection, and so on. But through this update, they've really solved that problem, where you can actually even customize your conversations leveraging your local files on your laptops, and you can leverage GPT even offline, right? So this definitely is a good update in terms of again how you access these models and the accessibility of these models, right? In probably remote, especially in remote areas, or probably at edge devices where you might not have good network connectivity, right? So the good update from Nvidia, Shiva.
But I mean, I'll probably take this with a pinch of salt. I mean, at Lizer, we made both the UI and code open source. Now anyone can build their own local chatbots. Why do you need graphics card to run these things? I mean, we've seen it's not super complex to do chat internally. Yes, you can with RTX integrate with a lot of apps and stuff, but it's like Hello World already. I mean, there is a Y Combinator company called D-Answer, so they also launched something similar. Langchain has a free version out. At Lizer, we have slightly a better UI, which is also free for customers to use. They can go to chatagent.lizer.ai. It's free for anyone to use. The UI is also free. You can just use it locally in your system. Yeah, it's okay. I think what NVIDIA is trying to do is to show that, hey, we are also building for the larger end consumer also. Like we also want to be a B2C company, not necessarily just remain a B2B company. The only B2C that NVIDIA was doing was for gamers to buy graphics cards. Now I think they're also wanting to get a piece of, hey, you know what, as an end consumer, you can also use my system. So yeah, everyone
So
was
they've
eyeing the pie.
correct.
Yeah.
It's more making their or probably their product offerings consumable, because if you remember, Shiva, they've also launched something called as microservices, which allows you to probably directly from the chip, which allows you to probably integrate with your documents, etc., to start interacting with that, right? So it's
Yeah.
I mean, see, while I do agree, it's responsibility of these companies to make it more consumable. That's what NVIDIA is doing. They're trying to improve their product offerings uh, through these updates, right? So.
Cool.
All right. Obviously, ChatGPT continues to surprise us. They've tried to build something new this time, Shiva, right, in another update, which is very surprising. Surprising, which I would probably not call it as an innovation. So what they've now launched is called ChatGPT Memory, right, which will
Hmm.
keep the context of your historical chats, how you've actually interacted with the GPT model previously, and try to personalize your conversation, which honestly I think is an ask from any model these days, right? So I'm
Yeah.
surprised what took them this longer time to probably come up with something of this sort. Well, obviously they have given given users privacy controls, and first of all, it's available for everyone. It's not only for GPT Plus users,
Yeah.
but even for the free users, it's available, right? And you do have control at a level of where you can completely, turn off memory, or you can actually do settings where what do you want the model to probably remember, right? You have controls at that level, right? The only while again, as I mentioned, it's nothing. It's not an innovation. I will not call it an innovation right now. It was a long awaited feature. But one thing that does worry me about this, Shiva, is are we getting into the social media trap that we had initially? Right. That's how social media, or probably I am not a personally. I don't have a Facebook account. Right. I don't have an Instagram account. I do have a Twitter account. But one of the reasons why I actually stopped going into Facebook graveyard, right, is because of the amount of information that they were consuming from my end, right, and then leveraging it probably, to literally give bullshit on my, application, right. So what I just want to be, or probably what, as users we definitely want to see, is that ChatGPT doesn't get into that trap now that it's actually tracking or memorize or understanding what my history is, right. But otherwise, again, good update, but long awaited. Right? I'm
Good.
surprised why they never had this earlier.
Good. So next up, we last two news. We have this OpenAI versus legal things that are happening. So first up, we have U.S. courts. They upheld the decision that AI cannot be named as an inventor in any of the patents. So that's one update. So all the AI generated stuff cannot be filed as a patent. So which is making it very clear that only humans can file for patents and own patents, and or corporations can file for patents and own patents. So that's a stance that they've taken. And a follow-up on that is that the trademark committee has also denied OpenAI's GPT trademark request. So they said, look, GPT as a term is descriptive in nature, so we cannot give you a trademark, which OpenAI was really, really hoping to get. But now, unfortunately, it's kind of not necessarily a big blow because they still get a lot of marketing. But if you see there are a lot of startups who are named as a private GPT, open GPT, and all of that. So they all kind of can breathe easy now because the trademark GPT is not a trademark of OpenAI. So these are two decisions that went probably. I mean, the AI thing is not against OpenAI, but the GPT is definitely against OpenAI. But I think there is something that went in favor of OpenAI. So what's that, Rishabh?
So yeah, so while before I get into that, Shiva, I just had this analogy that I was discussing. It's like OpenAI going and patenting GPT, Google going and patenting search as a term, right? So
Hmm.
while that's a joke, but I totally support the court's decision. You really cannot use this term as a, a proprietary tool. But yeah, so one thing that really worked well with GPT last week from legal perspective is that, as all of us are aware, there are multiple lawsuits against GPT in terms of infringement of this content, stating a lot of authors. So primarily there are two major lawsuits. One is that a set of authors have gone and said and filed a case against OpenAI, stating that they've leveraged their content to generate, and then probably New York Times had gone ahead and filed another case stating that they leveraged one of the articles and they've actually referenced that article exactly in their content, right? So what federal court has done is they put a stay order on all these, stating that while definitely the content was leveraged, but the outcome of these models or GPT primarily GPT suite primarily is or does not resemble this content that they had generated initially, right? It's quite different, right? So it's derived content. It's not exact content that they're showing. So they put a stay order on the current lawsuits, including the New York lawsuit, right? And they've given them some time to probably come back with an appeal. So it's a good, update for not only GPT but for other overall models as well. Because now obviously there's a clarity that we are getting into, that while they are leveraging certain content to build their data and train their models, but the outcome primarily doesn't or needs to be different. It's different from the
Yeah.
original content. It's an intelligence that they've actually built on top of it. That's something that they're bringing on table.
Cool. They can breathe a bit, but again, it's going to be a long
Yeah.
tussle, to be honest. More and more companies will come out with this. All right, great. So that brings an end to our episode number 13. We'll continue to bring more news. We will also probably bring more snippets, not necessarily wait till end of the week. We'll probably do that as well. So do join us in the next episode. We are speaking to some interesting guests to come on board as well. We'll keep you posted about that. Do join us and see you then. Until then, take care.
Thanks
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.